Today I'm talking about something a bit different on the show. The highs, lows and blood, sweat and tears that have gone into the making of this podcast and my Daring Home Decor business. I've split the episode into two parts as it was a bit long, so you can tune in next week for part 2. I figured we're besties by now and you might be interested as a break from the norm in what's going on behind the scenes of this entrepreneurial venture of mine. So grab a cuppa and let's chat.
Welcome to the Daring Home Decor podcast. Are you tired of playing it safe with your interior design? Are you overwhelmed with choice and just want simple steps to pull off cohesive and unique decor? I'm your host, Cara Baker, virtual interior designer and bold decor coach. I'll help you get brave, find your style and create a home with pizzazz. So grab your paintbrush, put on those overalls and let's get decorating.
If you're new around here, you're probably thinking this is not what I came here for. I totally understand, so feel free to go and check out all of my other episodes where you can still get help with getting daring with your decor. For the rest of you, I, for some reason, felt compelled to record this episode and be a little bit vulnerable about my journey of creating this podcast and business. So I'm just going to talk and we'll see where it goes. So Andy and I own a building company which we've had for 20 years. That just blows my mind when I say that we've been running this business for 20 years. We met at work. We both used to work at Sharp's Bedrooms and he was a supervisor on the shop floor. He'd actually worked there from leaving school, so he'd worked his way up to supervisor and I was in HR. And we met there and Andy did initially leave to start up self-employed as a carpenter because he was a qualified carpenter. And then shortly after that, when he'd built things up a little bit, I followed him so I could concentrate on the admin side of things, and we then started a limited company a few years later. So when I say the 20 years, that's from when we started the limited company, and he started, as I mentioned before, doing things like fitted bedrooms because he was a qualified carpenter, and then he moved on into building work as well. So we started the building company, and alongside that, as I have been doing my whole life, I dabbled with creative hobbies. I've always loved everything creative. When I had my careers lessons at school, I remember once we had to fill out a questionnaire to find out what kind of job we should move into. And the questionnaire, after I'd finished it, it said that I should do something creative. But when I left school many moons ago, I didn't find that there was that much opportunity to be doing creative roles. So I just fell into admin. And then I ended up in HR, which probably wasn't right for me, but I did enjoy it as I did it and at the time. But alongside this and alongside JCA, I've done all sorts of creative ventures. I've done cake decorating, candle making. I even wrote a book, although I probably won't ever let anybody read it. I do always think I might want to go back to that one day. I played the guitar. But one thing that has always stolen my heart, and that is interior design. Even from a young age, I do always remember when I was younger decorating or having a say in the decor of my own bedroom. I've mentioned on a previous podcast here when I had my whole bedroom decorated in Pierrot the Clown. And I've also had other designs, like, for example, when I was into ballet, that's another thing. That's another creative thing I've done. I used to dance. When I was doing ballet, I actually painted ballet shoes, like, on my bedroom walls. And I've always had a say in, what kind of duvet cover and curtains, etc. that I'm going to have. And from the first time that I had my own place, I revelled in the interior design, although when I think back to some of it now, it's like, cringe. But it was fab at the time. And prior to starting the podcast, I had my own interior design blog, which is still there on my website if you ever want to go and look at it. And then, of course, I discovered Instagram, as everybody has with social media. So I started focusing more time on my Instagram account, doing content creation. Now, over the years, we've never really grown the business beyond being a family business and basically just being myself and Andy with subcontractors coming in to do various roles. We did at one time try, but it didn't really work out for the best. So we just went back to being a small business. And with it being small, that has meant that Andy has always been on the go. He's running here, there and everywhere, doing all the roles. And for the most part, quite overwhelming for him, as he was just busy all the time, always on the go. And frankly, I think after 20 years, he just started to get a bit fed up with this and a bit switched off from the business. It didn't light him up the way it did when we first started, and for quite a few years after we started. I did try to come up with different ideas, different procedures to move forward, to plan, to grow. Let's plan, I used to say, and then you won't be constantly chasing your tail. But he was stuck in the weeds and really firefighting, so he never really thought that he had the time for any of that or thought it was worthwhile, if I'm honest. Now, no shame on him. You know, this is something that a lot of entrepreneurs end up getting into, and I've definitely been there myself with it, with JCA and with Daring Home Decor, etc. And with regards to Instagram, I was definitely feeling that way. It was more about fighting the algorithm than actually having the time to help people or do what I loved best, which was decorate my home. And I found that I was putting hours and hours into Instagram. It just wasn't growing the way I wanted it to. And really, it wasn't a business. It was just a hobby because I was barely getting anything out of it. I did get quite a few followers, and I did have quite a few collaborations, and I knew all the other content creators, not face to face or personally, although I had met some of them face to face. But yeah, I was like in that crowd, but honestly, it wasn't lighting me up. It was draining me. What was draining me wasn't the interior design. It was just the constant battle with Instagram, basically. Other people were succeeding. Other people loved it probably, but I was just starting to think this just isn't for me. I was having a to-do list every day to do. And I had, obviously, JCA. It wasn't Daring Home Decor at the time, it was Paradise. I used to call myself Paradise. So I was doing that on Instagram, not really with any specific plan of where I was going. I was just thinking, yeah, I'm going to make a business by being on Instagram. And, I just didn't have the direction that I needed. We've also got rental properties too, which I look after. And because Andy was always so busy out on the tools, fitting kitchens or whatever he was doing, we did actually make a pact that because I was at home doing the admin, that I would take on the majority of the housework, the bills, all the responsibilities that come with running a home. Now, guys, I am not complaining. I'm not sitting here complaining, oh, boo-hoo for her with rental properties, etc. No, I'm not complaining at all. I'm so grateful for all the opportunities that I've got, and I do count myself lucky, but I'm just explaining how I felt or how I feel now, etc. That's it. It's not a complaint, and I'm definitely not ungrateful for it. But I had Instagram, I had the rental properties, JCA, our home, and I was having to do a to-do list each day, which was as long as my arm, that I was never getting through. I felt like I was running around like an idiot. And I thought, what am I doing? And then I started to look into mindset and manifestation work. And it led me down a path that I absolutely did not plan. Now, I knew I wanted to do something with interior design because, as you know, I was on Instagram. But as I've explained, the hustle was real, and I just felt like it just wasn't for me because, I'll repeat again, I felt like it was more about fighting the algorithm than actually having the time to help people. And I'm not saying that nobody should be on Instagram. I'm saying it just wasn't for me. So I started with all the mindset and manifestation work, and I was feeling extremely overwhelmed at the time. And I thought, you know what, I should just give up on this interior design thing because I just physically can't fit it into my life. And then I heard my manifestation coach talking, and basically she was saying that you can create the life that you want to create, and there's always an answer to every problem. So I thought, okay, so I have got a problem with overwhelm, too many things. I wouldn't say I'm not an organised person, because I do think I was always a very organised person. But anyway, I thought, okay, I'd already listened to the manifestation podcast, and that was probably the first podcast I'd ever listened to. And I was led there from my manifestation. Is that the right word? Manifesting coach. Oh my God. I was led there from my manifesting coach. So that's when I first discovered podcasts. So I thought, oh, maybe I might find a podcast that would help me with time management, etc. So I put a search in on Apple Podcasts, and it was really weird because at the time only one podcast showed up, and I was thinking, oh, there's only one podcast on this, and there isn't. There's hundreds, so I'm not really sure why I just got that one podcast pop up. Maybe it was the universe. So I was led to a lady, and I can honestly say it changed my life. If you ever want help with time management and systems for your home and business, whether you've got, she is mostly for women with kids at home. I hadn't got any kids at home, but to be honest, I thought it was brilliant anyway. So I highly recommend this podcast. It's called Systemize Your Life, and it's by Chelsea Jo Moore. And I thought I was an organised person, and I'm not kidding you. It just blew my mind. I binged that baby from the beginning. I think if you do want to listen to it, go from the beginning. She's got probably about 400 episodes now, but go from the beginning. There's so much gold in there. Some of the things are so bloody obvious, but you're just not doing them. So it has taken me, because I've got so many things on the go, it has taken me over a year to try to get everything organised, even though I thought I was organised before. And what she also did was start mentioning about how she'd started her podcast. Now, I had no intentions whatsoever for starting a podcast. But as I was listening, I started to think, maybe that's the thing for me, to start a podcast on interior design. She explained how she wasn't on social media. It didn't take up a large chunk of her time. She could manage to fit, all her other things that she needed to do in her life in with it. So I thought, maybe starting a podcast is for me, which is really funny because I'm quite an introvert. Then again, so is it funny me trying to be a bloody social media influencer too. And I thought that as Andy was switched off and overwhelmed, maybe if I can start a business, then I could maybe take some pressure off him, so he wouldn't be under so much pressure to be bringing all the money in all the time. So I started the podcast, and I invested in growing the pod. I invested in starting it and growing it. I didn't just do it on my own. I invested in myself. When I say invested, I paid money. And I still obviously had the our building company alongside it, the home to look after alongside it, the rentals. Now, as I said before, I'm not complaining, but I was still juggling a lot of things. And when I was actually doing, the startup of the podcast and all the things that go with that, then all the things that go with trying to grow it, it was a lot. And about the same time as this, because I'm open to all things entrepreneurial now, and I obviously speak to people, I was talking to my hairdresser about what I'd do, etc. And she asked me, I'm going to leave it there for part 1 of this podcast episode, so make sure that you tune in next week for the second and final part of my journey with Daring Home Decor so far.
Put down your tester pot for 1 more minute. Come share your wins from this episode by leaving a quick review on Apple Podcasts. And don't forget, you'll find your next bold steps in the show notes. Meanwhile, you can get more interior inspo by joining my free community at facebook.com/groups/Daring Home Decor. And until next week, stay daring.